Well, good afternoon, everybody. I want to welcome you to today's webinar. Like usual, I've set it so everybody mutes automatically when they join the webinar, but you always have my permission to unmute yourself and ask a question if you need to, or use the chat feature, whatever works best for you. I'm really excited about today's webinar. The reports and exports are kind of one of my favorite things about the system. I love data, so obviously I would love reports and being able to pull data out and do fun things with that data. So we're going to go over the export info tool first and learn about that, because I think a lot of people forget about it, and it's a really valuable tool. And then we'll spend some time near the end of the webinar going over reports and any questions you might have about reports in your system. So to get started, the export information menu is located on every portal that we have. If you have employee records, jobs, volunteer, ProDev, there is an export information tab or menu. It's actually located on most systems in two places, under the management tab and under the system manager tab. So if you have, the highest level of clearance, you can go to either one to get access to your data. The reason we have it under two different, the management tab export information can get filtered down by your level of clearance. So someone with a lesser clearance won't see all the reports, where someone with like HR admin, if we're talking about jobs, is going to see everything. So just wanted to kind of clarify a little bit about that. This tool provides tons of report options that can be put into Excel. So then you can easily sort them and kind of work with that data a little more easily. Okay, so when you go to any of those export information menus, it looks like this. And depending on which portal you're on, the reports you're going to see are going to be a lot different. So right now, this is a sample of the jobs portal, some of the reports that show up there. Just like most places in the system, we give you a box where you can type and filter down. Like on jobs, you'll notice that there's a couple pages of exports right now. So if you remember a keyword of that, of your report, you can come in here and type and filter, so you don't have to go and flip through the pages to find the report you're interested in. And with most things in the system, whenever you see a magnifying glass, that's how you open it to look at the table or the report. So if I wanted to open any of these tables, I'd click on that magnifying glass, and it's actually going to open in a second screen, and it's going to look very similar to an Excel document kind of. So if we go to the next page, this is what it looks like when you open one. So here's an example of the hiring report that's on the jobs portal. And you can filter any of the columns on this report, which is nice because it's really easy to help you find the information you need or you want. So here on my example, I filtered first by my interest type, and I filtered by my job year. And then I could take these results and I can press this export to Excel, and it's going to dump all that data into an Excel file. And then you can do what you want. If you're like me, I love Excel. I love to go in and create pivot tables and all sorts of stuff just to really analyze my data. I like to sort, I like to filter, I like to color coordinate, all that fun stuff. So that's how you use an export info. You go to the next slide. I just want to point a couple things. When you're filtering your data, you type in that column, but within those columns, you can change your filtering options. So there's a little funnel next to most of the columns, and if you right-click on that, another window is going to open, and you can come in here and set your parameters. I like on the with the numbers, it's great. Like if I want to know between a set of numbers, or is it greater than or equal to. Also on this one, it's a date field. So if I clicked on the down arrow, it actually give me a calendar. If I wanted to just click on a day rather than type in the date, but also filter based on that. And like here is a different column. So like this is the email column. Well, maybe I know a portion of their email, but I don't know exactly what it looks like. This is a great thing to click on that funnel and then maybe come down and change it to contains. So If I know their last name is Garfield, like this example here, if I type that in and it's contained, it's going to show me anybody in that column with data that matches that. So just note that those little funnels are your friend when it comes to filtering and sorting your data in the export information screen. And okay, questions? If so, let me know. Okay. So I like to point out when we're talking about reports and exports, reports are static. You go like a job report, you select the job, you press process, and you get your list. But an export is malleable because you have the option to go in and sort and filter and to funnel down your data to try to get, to get exactly what you're looking for is, I guess, the way to put it. But I like to, that's kind of the big difference between our reports menus and our exports menus. And the export menu is also a little more flexible in the regards when you make a report, you're limited to the size of a page. Your columns can only go across so far, if it's portrait or landscape. But on an export, just like Excel, there's really no limit to how many columns of data your report contains. So if you're wanting some real specialized data out of your system, we can help you create an export, and you can have limitless columns. So that gives you the flexibility to filter and look for different things based on what you need at that time. So I like to point that out. I thought we could go over a couple of examples of how I use some of the export information reports. So an example of why I like using export versus a standard report. Let's say I'm screening my applicants, and I've gone in and I have a screening export that we've added to my site, and I can go in and find my job, filter. I could look at just complete applicants if I wanted really easily, whatever I want, and then export it into Excel. And the nice thing about once it's in Excel, I can do what I want to the data. I could add an extra column, and as I'm screening my applicants, I could type in my notes. I could create a little rating scale or whatever I need, and then I could save that data. So with an export information, once you export it, you can edit it, you can manipulate, but you can't do that on a regular report. So that's kind of why I like to use exports. Another example of how I use exports, anytime anybody emails support about an issue with the PD course and the seat counts, I go straight to that attendance check report, and I open it up to I filter it to the course, and then I dump it into Excel, and I can easily look at all the different sessions and see who's enrolled, who's not enrolled. I can, tabulate and count all the different seats, and then I can take and see if the seat count data in this file is the same that's on my course request on tab 7. And if it's off, I can tell that something's wrong, and that's probably why things aren't working anymore, because the seat count's not right. And I can use that data to go in and adjust things. Another example is if you're like me and you love Excel, sometimes it's fun to create graphics based on your data. And I love to take data and dump it in to Excel and then, make a pivot table to kind of count or summarize my data and then make a visual graphic. So if I were to do that with the Learned About report, it would look like this. I'd open, this is a report on everybody's jobs portal that when an applicant completes their profile, we ask them a question about, well, how did you learn about us? And I can open this report, and if I wanted, I could filter to just the current year that I'm working in. I could set my dates, and then I would dump it into Excel, and I could create a pivot table. So here's my pivot table results. You can see I've kind of saw, all the numbers for all the different criteria that applicants choose from. And then I was able to take that pivot table data and create a graphic like this. So I can visually see, well, where are people learning about my district? And it looks like, oh, a lot of them are learning it from the website or our individual job postings. And how that might be valuable is when it comes time to make our decisions on recruiting, if we look at this data, if it could really steer what we do and how, as a district, we decide to look for applicants. So that's one way I like to use, some of the reports in the system. Your system is a database. So people put data in, and it's only logical that you should be able to pull that data out and analyze it and various different ways. So I encourage everybody to take the time to get familiar with your export info reports. Awesome, Melanie. There are a lot, and depending on which portal you have, they're very different. So like if you have an employee records portal, you're going to have exports for getting certificates on your employees, birth dates on your employees. You could have seniority, all those different things that you run from time to time. On the jobs, you're going to have data about hiring and your job posting. Your EEOC data is going to be there. In ProDev, you got seat counts, you got information about your courses, instructors. And if you find you're using reports and there's data that's missing, reach out to the support team, because it's really easy for our programming team to add columns to an existing export report. It's very fast. And some of those same columns that you're using, or those data fields, would really be helpful to other clients. So, reach out to us and let us know. The other thing with export information is we can make you custom reports very, very easily. I know there's a lot of you where you email the support team for data, and what we do is we create a query, because your database is basically a big SQL database, and we write a query to pull those results for you. Well, if you're finding that you want those same results over and over again, we can take our queries that we've written and submit them to our programming team, and they add them to your export really simply. And, if you want a real complex export, we might have to work with the programming team to set that up, because Deb and I we're pretty good with writing queries, but there are a few things that are beyond our capabilities. So I just know that export is really simple to modify and add to. So let's talk about reports. Like I said, reports are static. You basically select a report and process it. You can filter a little before on some reports, like if it's an applicant report or a volunteer report. But for most part, you just kind of punch in a little bit, and your data is your data. Every portal has a reports tab somewhere on it, and some have more than one. Like on JAS, on our jobs portal, there's actually 2 report menus. There's one that deals with jobs and one that deals with applicants. And, the jobs menu is only available to HR, where you do give the applicant menu access to your hiring managers. And in ProDev, there's 4 different report menus. There's one for individual employees for them to go and pull their transcripts. Instructors and facilitators have their own reports menu for pulling sign-in sheets for their courses, to review their evaluation data, just to see who's signed up for their courses. And then, of course, the PD manager has all those reports and then some underneath their report menu. Volunteer has a report menu very similar to jobs. It's a lot like the applicant reports, only it's volunteer reports. But I do know on our volunteer districts, they rely most heavily on their export information to get their volunteer lists and stuff to their buildings. And lastly, ERM has a report menu just like jobs and things. Okay. And all the menus all the reports menus in essence act very similar. You always start by selecting the report. Now this is the jobs report menu. And then based on the report you select, different criteria options will open to you. Like if you're on a PD site and you select to print your transcript, you don't really need an option other than to process and preview it. But on a job site, you might need to pick the job, or if you're looking at applicants, you might need to filter down a little, like I want to look at complete applicants or whatnot. So what job you select from this menu really drives what menu opens below it. And then when you've got your criteria set, you would press the preview button, and your data it defaults to being output into an Excel report. A PDF report, sorry about that. You can select Excel, but it's a weird web-based Excel, and there's weird line breaks, and it's not friendly. And that was one reason why we created the export menu based on feedback from clients, that they wanted to be able to pull data and be able to sort it. So that's a big reason why the export menu was created. Okay. There's so many different reports on the portal, so I just gave a few, examples, but every portal comes with some stock reports that everybody gets no matter what. But clients always have the option to customize those stock reports or to create their own custom reports. So here's just, a sample of the applicant name listing, very basic report. Here's a sample of a district's custom certificated screening report. They picked the fields that were helpful to them when it came to screening, like, status, endorsements, degrees, what's missing on their checklist, and they've got a little reference reference scoring system in place. So that's just a possibility of a custom report that a client is using. I even have clients that have custom jobs reports. So on Monroe, they have this certificated job posting report that they pull and they send out to their employees or post to their employees weekly so they know what their current job openings are. And it's kind of, they've added their logo and made it kind of pretty and whatnot. So reports are pretty endless. The big difference also between an export report and a regular report is a regular report we can make pretty. We can decide, well, we want to have a header here and we want it to look like this, where an export is basically an Excel file. Other reports in your system there are other reports in your system, but they're not necessarily accessed under a report menu. They're embedded in the page you're on, so to speak. So if you're in employee records and you're looking at a employee's record, especially right here, we're in the credits tab. If I want to pull a report on their credits, those little PDF icons indicate that there's a report. And so if I click on it, then I would get my little credit report, and it looks something like this. So people forget, that there are menus or reports embedded. With a PD site, there's reports all over in course registration and your individual course records. On the course request page, there's reports all throughout the system. Similar even with on the jobs, when you go to apply for a job, the job detail report is one that's embedded in the system as a PDF. You have the ability to change the name of any of your reports because you might call it something different, or you want to give it a title that really helps you understand exactly what report that is. You can at any time go and make changes to the names of your report. And if you want to do that, you go to the System Manager, look up Tables. It's under Shared Tables, and it's called Reports. And it looks like this when you're there, and it's going to list all the reports. You can filter by system if you're looking for a particular report, like a job report or whatnot. And then you would click on the pencil, and it opens a screen like this. And the only thing that you want to change is the title. Don't change any of these because that's where the system knows to look for the data, but you are more than welcome to come in here and give it a different name. You are also more than welcome to hide any reports that you don't want to use that are just taking up space and confusing you. You would do that same thing. You would come and find that report, but instead of changing the title, you're going to check the hide box and save it. And then that report will still be there. It's just not going to show up on a drop-down menu anymore. So I just want you to know that you have a little control to change things. I know a lot of, if you look at our PD sites, everybody calls their transcript something different, and we let them do that, Okay. So just want to talk a little bit more about customizing reports. And when I say that, I'm talking about reports and exports. Each and every report in your system theoretically could be customized. I have applicants on their applicant summary. They don't want certain things to be on there, so we have them removed. Or some people want additional things on there, so we add them to it. We will work with you to modify reports. And like we said, if you want to set up your own report that's got data specific to what you need, we can work with you to do that. There are fees for most custom reports. Little ones, not so much, but we do send them out and have other programmers work on them. And Sherry's really good. It's a straight across cost. She doesn't make any money off it or anything, and more than often actually eats fees, because if it goes over the quote, she always makes sure that she doesn't pass that on to the client. But I just want you to know that custom reports are awesome. And, you know, if you want to see some amazing examples some of our clients are using, we will share them with you. But to know that there's possibly a fee associated with those report changes. And the support team loves working with our clients on creating those different reports. And that's it. You know, I struggled with what to go over, so I don't know if that was helpful or not. I am more than happy to go to a couple sites and go through some of the reports and show you stuff. You know, let me know, unmute yourself, ask a question. But the big thing I wanted you to know is you've got these export reports. Open them, look at them, use them, play around with them. You can't mess up any of the data. You can go in and filter to your heart's content and get familiar with them. And that way, if you need, if when you're finding you're using ones and you're not finding the data you need, let us know, because like I said, if you have specific things you're looking for, chances are someone else is. Okay, Diane, I know you had a question. Let me go read that one real quick. Okay, another example of an export report. Why don't we go, I'm going to share my screen and we're going to go off to one of our sites. Here, just a second. You don't want to look at my email. So I'm on our support employee records site. And so here are some of the reports available. And I can come in here and say, maybe I want to know about the different certificates my employees have. I would come to my menu. So my menu is here under export information, or over here under export information. And I would find the report I want to use or I want to view. And I click on the little magnifying glass, and it's going to think and it's going to load. And it's going to be a little extra slow because I'm on the WebEx. Normally it's not this slow. It's when I share my screen and try to broadcast over the internet, things slow down a little bit. And hopefully my example works. This is why I do PowerPoint, so we don't have any technical issues. Well, we'll let it think. Well, let's try the PD portal maybe. Let's do, oh, yeah, I got disconnected from the server. I opened my page I probably logged out because I opened this an hour or two ago. Let's try PD real quick. Sorry about that bad example. Make sure I'm still logged in. The joys of technology. Okay, so here are all my export reports. And a common thing that districts do, a lot of our districts they load their PD credits into BusPack. So if I wanted, I could come in here and I could find that file. And I'm going to click the magnifying glass, and it's going to open the screen right here. And here is all that data that gets uploaded into another system. And I could come in here, and if I only wanted to do a particular class, I could come in here and just type in that course number, and it filters my results down to just 3 records. And then I could take that data and press the Export to Excel button, and it's going to open into an Excel document. And then I could follow my steps that I would need to in order to get this data to upload into that other system. Does that help? Oops, I have lots of weird things open on my computer today. But just to show you, perfect. Right now, like on this PD, on our release site, there's 30 stock exports that are on that site. And if we go to the jobs site, if I still have it, it closed on me. Here, applicants, so on the jobs, I've got 26 that are stock. Some some of the reports that have been added have been because of clients requesting them. I've had a lot of clients that wanted a way to view it all, to find applicants that speak different languages, kind of as a whole. And so we added this report here. So same thing, I could open it. Sorry, like I said, my screen was open too long and I disconnected. So anyway, other questions that I can answer about the export infos and reports? Well, that's kind of all I have. I will send you my PowerPoint so you can have it to look at it, and it might remind you of some of the things like filtering. Like I said, if you open a report and you want to change the filtering options, you just come in here and you're going to click on that little funnel. And like I could say contains, and I could add, let's see, employee. And it'll filter that way rather than exact match. So I can get all of the data that matches that. So it's a nice way for searching and filtering and finding data. All right, well, that's all I've got. Thank you for taking your time out of your day to join us. And, oh, yes, Diane, that report is on the ProDev site. So if you go on your ProDev portal and you go over the System Manager tab, there's an Export Info. You're going to click on that, and it's going to load this page. And what I typically do to find my reports, I know that it's a credit report, so I'd start typing the word credit. And right here is my Westpac credit load report. And so I can open that and upload it. And you'll also see there's a fiscal one because some of our clients have a fiscal component that they use. And it's, it is just your, yes, Diane, that's a good question. We work to make sure you're only loading your employees. The records, we use their, I guess it's called a name key in Westpac, and we match that up with your users so that you can match that up with Westpac. And if you're interested in learning more about that, I could walk you through and show you how it all works. I have some very detailed instructions on getting your credit data from your PD system into your other fiscal systems. Like we have clients that use Westpac, Business Plus, and some other ones. And so there is a pretty simple process in taking those credit records and uploading them into another system. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. I'm going to stick on the line for anybody who wants to have a conversation. Otherwise, I appreciate your time.
Hey, Bree, I have a question.
Yeah.
This is Chris.
Hi, Chris.
How are you?
I'm fabulous.
I'm looking at the reports for position filled at our site, and I notice when it brings up the report, it has the job ID number, but it doesn't have necessarily the year. So, like, if I and I'm just trying to understand how it's coming out because it doesn't look like it's by number order. How would I sort that?
Okay, I'm going to show you. So I'm going to, I'm going to share my screen again.
Okay.
Because I stopped sharing, sorry. And since I have the jobs, let's go to your site, if you don't mind waiting just a second for me to go there. I'll show you a couple things. And so it's in two spots. I always point that out so you know where it is on both spots. I always go to System Manager because I don't know why. And so it was which one? Position
filled right there.
Okay, let's look at that. All right. So yeah,
see on that job ID, look at all the I can't tell if that's a 2017 or 2018 job. Is there a way to see that?
Well, you know what we can do is that's where I said, take a look, and if you see things that are missing, let us know. That's a good one. We could add the year very simply to that report for you so that you could find it easily. So,
be able to sort
right now,
by
you
year.
got the start date of when the job started over on the right, but that might not necessarily tell you which year it really is assigned to. But that's a great suggestion. So I'm actually going to copy this report name, and I'm going to make a note. Sorry, I have my little, every day I have a couple things here, sorry.
So that way you can kind of sort by, let's say you wanted to know in the, 2016, how many jobs did we post, who all filled them, it's just a quick way to find it. Because when I first looked at that report, I wasn't sure. And then the second column over, that recommendation, what is that, the recommendation ID?
So if you're, that's the job recommendation ID. So this is the job number, and that's the job recommendation. So like if you come here to your job recommendations, show you real quick. You'll notice there's two numbers. This is the recommendation ID number. This is the job number. And the reason there's two numbers is you could have a pooled job, and you could hire more than one person to a job. So we have two sets of numbers to keep track.
Does
that help understand or help make that a little more clear?
Yes.
Hopefully.
It does.
Yes.
Okay.
So that, so I would encourage you to go look at the other reports. And like I said, I didn't even realize the job year wasn't on here, and that's a great thing to add. So if you see other things like that, that's where the support team loves it when our clients, give us suggestions, because those are easy modifications. Those don't changes to an export information do not require like a whole new release, like when we make changes to screens and we have to launch a new release. Exports are kind of their own little thing, and they can be modified individually, which is great. So please don't hesitate to send us ideas.
Okay.
And I have a lot of districts that we make very, very specialized queries. They'll say, I want to know this, this, and this. And Deb and I will write a query, and we give you the data just like this. And then if it's something that you're going to use more than once, we can email it to the programmers and ask them to add that report to your